welcome to MAQ TV and, of course, all our viewers here this afternoon. And I'm very privileged to be joined by a dear friend of mine. I like to address him as that firstly, before I give all his, I start to explain his tremendous resume and give it to you all. Dave Cameron, the former president of the West Indies Cricket Board, a US Hall of Famer as well. And, of course, he would have been a member of the International Cricket Council. Good afternoon, Dave. How are you?
Good afternoon, Vinod, and well wishes to all your viewers and listeners. And I hope everybody is staying safe in this pandemic. The cases in Jamaica are going up now exponentially, so hopefully we won't be challenged too much.
Well, we actually handled the first wave very well in Trinidad, but now we are rising exponentially as well. Of course, the population of Trinidad is much smaller than that of America. I think as of this morning, we had 308 cases. I don't know what's the figures in Jamaica, but for the benefit of our US.
Just over 1,000. We had about 14 deaths. And interestingly, those 4 deaths have come in the last 2 weeks. Additional 4 deaths. We had 10 from all the way back in about March, April. And so it's a little bit challenging. We've now announced general elections as well. So we expect some amount of gatherings. And so it's really managing. And I think we now have accepted that we'll be living with COVID for a while. So it's not that we're going to eliminate this pandemic. It's how we manage it going forward.
Well, the good news is that there is good news coming out of Russia. They've actually registered the first vaccine. And we wait to see how quickly that could get into the hands of their population first before making its way across the world. But you know the politics involved with even that.
We look forward as well. We know that the common man will be able to afford it. Or the lesser country, the less developed country that will be able to afford it. So we look forward to that. There's light at the end of the tunnel. But the war continues. And we have to focus on livelihoods, sometimes at the expense of lives.
Yes, and that's a very powerful statement indeed coming from you there, Dave. Of course, life has been different, and you are a U.S. Hall of Famer. And of course, this year, the U.S. Hall of Fame, they will be inducting another group of significant men and women. And it will be done via Zoom. Actually, the entire thing this year has been sponsored by Mohammed Qureshi, the chairman of Cricket Council USA. You've known MAQ a while now. He continues to, even in difficult times with the COVID and stuff, and being a businessman, he continues to invest. Your thoughts on the gentleman and the US Hall of Fame, both of you being US Hall of Fame?
Well, firstly, I can't say enough about MAQ and what he's doing. And you'd have heard me in my bid to be the chairman of the ICC that we need more people like MAQ. We need private investment. I've looked at sports, business, anywhere in the world, and the government or your governing group is never going to be the one to invest. So what we need to be is create the environment, create the rules, etc., and to allow people like MAQ to invest in the sport and keep doing what they're doing and growing the sport. So kudos to MAQ and for what he's doing. And my understanding as well, he's sponsoring the whole induction ceremony of the Hall of Fame this year. The Hall of Fame has been excellent. I've certainly enjoyed being a member of it. The support from the group, the diverse group, again, which is, I think, is the important thing about the Hall of Fame, is that you're getting views from all around the world, not just the USA, and on the USA issues, but also issues facing the other countries in cricket. And it has helped me to give me a broader view of cricket in the international landscape.
I think I had mentioned once to Michael Chambers, who's a very senior man. He was actually president for a while. He's a very senior man in the setup, as you would know, a good friend of yours. I think I had mentioned to him some time back that he should probably, consider a name change from the US Hall of Fame to the Cricket Hall of Fame, because because of that diverse nature, he has, the tremendous contribution coming from the West Indies, tremendous contribution coming from India as well, MAQ, and of course his Pakistan background. I think, but Michael, good old Michael, just laughed and he took it in stride.
Well, the challenge you'll have, he's the executive director of the Hall of Fame. The challenge you will have, being on, is that the ICC does have a Hall of Fame, and I'm sure other countries maybe looking to set up their own Hall of Fame. Cricket is one of those sports. While it's they would like to say it's maybe the second most viewed sport in the world, I think we're still very backward in how we view cricket as a sport, as a business. And maybe it's because it's not been influenced enough by North America and North Americans. So when our reference point is North America for sports, Major League Baseball, NFL, basketball, and you look at how they've commercialized the game, and you look around the world and see what's been done, and cricket somehow is very, very far down the track. So again, which is one of my ambition, is to get cricket into mainstream USA, and I believe the world can benefit from that just because of how they market and organize sports as a business in that country.
Well, cricket in the US has been fraught with controversy, if I may say so myself. There has been so many problems over the last decade or even more, dating back. The ICC has not viewed things too favorably at times, and when the ICC went in, I think the Americans didn't view it too favorably. But one consistent factor in my mind is MAQ and Cricket Council USA. They have been, if I may say so, not the main body, but they've been a silent partner, and they continue to keep cricket alive. There was a period where for around 2 years there was no cricket, and all the cricket that was organized was through Cricket Council USA and MAQ. And of course, as you would know, you were a specially invited guest once at the US Open T20 tournament. So this gentleman continues to push, and I think just in my estimation, any movement moving forward should include him to some extent.
No, again, I can't say enough about what Mark has done and continue to do for USA Cricket, but cricket worldwide, because his audience spans, I'm sure, worldwide, that watches cricket. And I agree with you. Whatever the USA is doing should include MAQ and persons like MAQ who have an investment to make in this wonderful sport of ours.
And of course, we need to put so many things correct in terms of cricket administration in certain countries. You have been championing the cause of the smaller boards. Of course, America will fall under associate. And that has been one of your mantras leading into this whole ICC chairmanship issue and the impending elections or selection. You never know. I think that the U.S. Cricket Board and what happens in the United States could well be a prototype, something that you can use to show how you can change to make the lesser boards, if I may say so, have a greater voice in world cricket and also a greater share in the riches of cricket.
Well, Vinod, I want to temper that expectation that I believe the boards need to play the governing role and facilitate and allow the game to grow. And I'm saying even in small countries, we're never going to be able to compete with India, Australia, England. But you don't necessarily want to compete. What you want is persons investing in the sport and the sport being available to more persons as an occupation. And so, with that, I'm saying, I've looked around and I'm saying to myself, you look at what's happening at ICC, and why shouldn't Barbados, for example, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, not being a full member country, because those countries can actually beat, in my mind, Ireland and Afghanistan. So when you start to talk about the sport as a business and less about the boards, then you start to see there's a different construct that needs to be looked at, because it's all about players and participation. And if we can grow, my view is that when we grow the sport, then even the West Indies as a business and how it is organized today will be challenged to survive. And that is why I'm not necessarily focusing on boards, but I'm saying there needs to be a model that allows cricket to strive. And if you have high producing areas, nations, for example, the West Indies, Barbados, Guyana, Trinidad, etc., there needs to be a model where its players can actually grow in stature, be able to play and earn just as well as persons coming out of India, Australia, England. And for that to happen, the model in world cricket needs to facilitate that. And the boards, the governing bodies need to be a facilitating role, play a facilitating role rather than being the dominant partner in what's going on.
Well, should Barbados, Trinidad, or Guyana or Jamaica become full members of the ICC? Are you suggesting that they dismantle the West Indies Cricket Board?
Well, again, I'm not suggesting you dismantle the West Indies, but I'm just saying that in this environment where T20 is dominating and white ball cricket is to another extent, all of those teams you just called, 4 teams, are competitive teams by themselves. And which is also begs for the model of the Olympics and other, what you call them, multi-sports events. So, you start to see that there are opportunities for more players to be given the opportunity to play at the international level. So, times are changing. I heard a report recently that the West Indies cricket still doesn't have a broadcast agreement going forward. Well, neither does Sri Lanka and Bangladesh and the smaller nations, simply because the broadcasters are not necessarily interested in international cricket anymore because it's not as competitive as it used to be. They want domestic cricket. And so, my whole being and trying to get everybody to understand is that I'm about the business of cricket rather than the sport cricket. If you don't have the business of cricket, you're not going to be able to have the sport cricket. And so while the tradition is important and what we've done to this thus far, we need to look at what is in demand today. And the CPL is in a few days away, and everybody's excited to see the CPL. So shouldn't the CPL be a much bigger product than it is today, rather than 6 weeks being held in one island? Because you have more sponsors and people want to see that. So how do you continue to deny, maybe growing the CPL versus West Indies that now plays less than 30 days a year, and for which broadcasters are not demanding to see your players because they're already seeing them in all of these leagues. And so that conversation needs to be had.
Yeah, but is it fair to say that I'm getting from you, I could be wrong, that the West Indies could remain as a test playing country and white ball be given to the individual countries in the Caribbean?
Absolutely. That may be the construct that goes forward. Because I'm saying to you, if I look at it objectively and what's going on, Barbados has a test team in itself, or at least has a team that could compete in white ball. So too Jamaica, so too Trinidad, so too Barbados. Why are you then trying to put a team out there, international team, that stifles that talent? And that is why I'm advocating more domestic cricket, where those players, more players can have access, more officials, commentators, etc. Again, just going back to what happens in other sports. Cricket provides the least opportunities for persons outside of the game. For example, commentators, etc., as an international sport. And I'm saying if it's going to grow, it needs to provide more opportunities. Going to more boards, governing bodies to say, let's grow it in Asia, in Malaysia, in China, is not necessarily going to provide more participants. But if Chinese players can find opportunities to go and play in other leagues, then the sport will grow based on the heroes. Because you and I follow heroes. You and I follow players, not necessarily governing body. We don't care that my favorite player is Virat Kohli from India currently. I just know that I love to watch him bat. And whichever team he's playing for, I'm going to watch it because I want to see Kohli. And so that, in my mind, that's how you grow sports. Sports is grown through fans appreciation, and it's grown through your players. And so if your fans want to see your players, then we've got to find ways to make them into bigger heroes.
That's a very interesting conversation. I'm sure that you and I will continue that in further episodes. But yeah, just to switch a bit, you made the comment just now, you're in the business of sport. That is more important than the sport itself, because without money coming in, you can't have the sport. I read somewhere that the West Indies Cricket Board spoke of a debt that you left as president of the board, your executive. But I'm also seeing a report that stated that you were in the black, I think to the tune of 15.6 million. Shed some light onto that.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for that. I've seen these spurious reports all over the place about mismanagement of funds, and I like to say it categorically. And the numbers are on the Cricket West Indies website. And interestingly, I haven't seen any release about it. So again, people like yourself not doing your work in making sure that the news comes out. But yet last year, Cricket West Indies posted a profit of $15.6 million. So I'm not so sure about where all this debt that my administration left at Cricket West Indies, and why hasn't these numbers been reported as widely as the so-called mismanagement in Cricket West Indies. I also remember vaguely the CEO and the current chairman of the finance committee, Billy Heaven, talking about they've paid off all their debts. So now that they're in a difficult period, we now seem to want to go back in time to suggest that my administration has left them in a situation. But the facts are that Cricket West Indies recorded a profit of $15.6 million last year. And
so are you saying, Dave, that when you left, there was no debt?
There was no debt. There is no debt. We paid off. We had an overall deficit, accumulated deficit of just over $3 million. Okay, so let me clarify that. So let's say there's a $3 million debt is what would have been on the books at Cricket West Indies. We knew that this year would have been a challenging year, and the next year. So we had put in place a facility to borrow $30 million to ensure that Cricket West Indies could last this period. The current administration decided that that facility was not necessary and turned it down, and hence they're having challenges currently, and are now trying to go back to the previous administration to say that we're the ones who left debt. We didn't leave any debt there, but we always forecasted that this year and next year will be very challenging. And the reason for that is because of this new Test Championship and ODI League table that they brought in, without taking into consideration the commercial reality of the league. And those have been my challenges at ICC. Those are the reasons I've written papers to try and explain to them that it's not about that we don't want to play in the championship, but if we don't play England and India in every 2 years, then we don't have enough of a commercial value, TV value, to be able to survive. And we could have that in itself is a whole show to try and explain the commercial realities of world cricket. England has gotten 1.2 billion for 8 years of cricket, domestic cricket, and international cricket included. Australia, 1.1 billion Aussie dollars. The IPL or BCCI, 1 billion plus 2.5 billion for IPL. So there's been 3.5 billion for 5 years for cricket in India. West Indies cricket our rights are valid $40 million now, if we're lucky, because we don't have England and India visiting in our 4-year cycle. And so what I kept arguing with the ICC about is that it doesn't make commercial sense for us to be set up in a league where we can't ensure that England and India come to the Caribbean. If that is not the case, then we need to have a different setup where we get paid for traveling. So we should have been paid, my argument, we should have been paid to go to England, just in the just concluded series. We need to be paid to go to New Zealand later this year, because outside of that, you tell me what's seemingly going to happen this year is that we will have no international cricket in the region, which means Cricket West Indies will have no opportunity of earning an income. And so you tell me if that makes sense as a business model. You know, that's a view.
Well, I'm glad that you cleared that up. So you're saying that when your administration exited, there was a deficit of $3 million US, but
That's
they posted a profit of 15.6
million US dollars.
Right. And in forecasting the future, being a businessman
And those results, by the way, are all available on Cricket West Indies website from 2014 to 19. All the years that I was president, all the financial statements are available to be downloaded and analyzed as much as you like.
And you're saying that you still you're willing to secure a facility of 30 million just to take you through what was expected to have been rough days.
That is correct. It would have been expected to be two very rough years, 2021.
Because of the cycle.
Because of the cycle.
Okay, great.
But we knew that, and we were putting things in place to deal with that, and also to look at other revenue earning opportunities. And so my successor campaign on Cricket First, I was about business of cricket first. And so I hope now that the prime ministers of the region will put their hands in their pockets and fund cricket first, because they're in dire straits financially. And I'm not seeing how they will survive unless the model in world cricket changes very, very quickly.
Well, I think there's an election June 2022 at the West Indies Cricket Board.
2021.
2021. Any chance of Dave Cameron coming back with that?
Well, Vino, you never know. But that's not my focus right now. I continue to build my own business. And if the ICC wants me to help to shape world cricket, then I look at that. But my focus is not on West Indies cricket at this point in time. I spent 17 years, and I'm very disappointed with the utterings that have continued even while I've left. No one has spoken about the track record, about what I've left there, and you can name them. We've had, since in leadership, we had 4 wins. We've set up the CPL. We've set up the PCL, the Professional Cricket League. We have more players now earning a living. I would like to say that we have the start of an industry in cricket. And I don't hear about that, but I hear about these petty nuances that occurred at Cricket West Indies, because I was more focused on running a business rather than the social aspect of the game. And don't let me get it wrong. I agree that West Indies cricket has a huge social impact on the region. But as I debated, and until the last day with Honorable Owen Arthur, my very good friend, we spent about 40 minutes debating this same topic the morning he got the stroke, that there are some institutions, UWI, LEAT, and the West Indies, that are still being run as a social construct, which are going to fail unless we understand that they have to be business first with a social construct attached to it. And layat has failed because of that. They're running layat as a social construct where persons are using it almost as their private jet. And this is unfortunate. And if they don't change University of the West Indies and Cricket West Indies, then I'm gonna tell you that we're going to fail as well. These things need to be run as a business, and understanding that the proceeds, the net gains, etc., have to be used in a social way to continue what's happening in the region. But you see what has happened in Jamaica when the government used to be the major part of the economy didn't grow. Now that the government is facilitating and allowing growth, bring down interest rates, etc., the country has grown. Not as much as we would like to, but certainly governments are never going to be investing in stuff like sports. It needs private sector to invest in it. So those are my few words, Vinon. I really hope that the construct will change somewhat in ensuring that the sport of cricket survives. It won't necessarily be West Indies cricket, but there's clearly an opportunity for players. There's clearly people are craving CPL. People can't wait. I myself can't wait to see the spectacle on TV. Unfortunately, it will be without crowds, but we will enjoy it nonetheless because it will be a competitive environment, and we look forward to that.
My final question to you, Dave, I know you've given me a lot of food for thought today. But my final question for you is, bring us up to date with this whole ICC situation and Dave Cameron running for chairman.
Yeah, well, the current situation, as I'm told, it's been reported to me, is that there was a meeting on Monday. And even in that meeting, there are a number of persons who would like to be ICC chairman. But also what I'm failing to understand is why they're not using the provisions that have been put in place. So in 2017-18, when Shashank remained as chairman, we put regulations in place. So there's a nominations committee that was used, and I was a part of that committee, that was used to recruit the CEO of the ICC. It's also supposed to be used to recruit the chairman or chairperson as well. And so that committee needs to just be put to work. If there are members of that committee that are included, that have sights on being chairman, then they should recuse themselves and let the committee look at the potential candidates and then recommend one or two candidates to the ICC for to chair the organization. So there is a provision there. Unfortunately, my understanding is not being used. Again, you can find that on the ICC website, the nominations committee terms of reference. And I think they need to look at that and then get on with the business. But cricket is an interesting sport again. Cricket is not necessarily accustomed to the kind of electioneering, especially at the ICC and in some countries. It's accustomed where the chairman becomes voted in by acclamation rather than on a vote. And I think that's what ICC is trying to do. But the world has changed, and sports has changed. And so to get 17 members around a table to agree that one person is the right person to be chair is always going to be difficult. And I think they should have an election process and let that person then be tasked with bringing everybody on board. And because, I've said a lot of things about what I would like to do if I became chairman of the ICC, but none of it will be possible unless you can convince the members around the table to come along and giving them enough reasons why they should change the current course. So in any case, even when you get in there as a chairman of the ICC, you're going to have to bring people on board to convince them. So for the time being, we're all on hold. awaiting the process. My understanding, again, from the utterances of Cricket West Indies, they haven't made up their minds about who they are supporting. They have not responded to my request for support for nomination. And so all of that is up in the air. But as I've said, Vinod, I'm available. I think there's no one more qualified than myself to lead a diverse board as the ICC, having led Cricket West Indies, 17 different prime ministers, different ethnic groups, cultures, different islands, countries, if you want to call it then. So I think I'm well versed, having dealt with my prime ministers, etc. in this region, that I can actually bring that to the organization. So again, I'm available, and if called upon, I'm willing to serve.
Well, Dave, we want to thank you for your contribution today on MAQ TV. You were absolutely brilliant, my friend. And I think you would have raised many eyebrows. You would have given a lot of people things to think about. You were thought-provoking as well. And we're going to keep in touch with you as we look ahead to whatever the ICC decides, whether they're going to go to election or, as you said before, a president will be there by acclamation. So we wait to see. But I want to thank you for being with us, and to wish you and your family all the best, and please stay safe.
Thank you very much, my friend, and please stay safe as well, and enjoy Trinidad and Tobago and seatbelt on my behalf.
Thank you. Well, you've heard it there from the former president of the West Indies Cricket Board. That's Dave Cameron, of course, a very successful Jamaican businessman at it as well, and he's hoping to lend his services to the ICC. Keep viewing and stay tuned to MAQ TV for all your cricket action.